to the Indo-Pacific, where on the 80th anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima, Pope Leo took the time to honour the tens of thousands who were killed and wounded on August the 6th of that day in 1945. He also noted that just 3 days, the world will commemorate another sorrowful milestone, the bombing of Nagasaki. At the close of his general audience, the Pope offered words of solidarity. He said, "I wish to assure my prayers for those who have suffered its physical and psychological and social consequences." He emphasized that even after 8 decades since the bombings, these tragic events continue to serve as a global reminder of the destruction brought by war, especially by nuclear weapons. Let's listen in to Pope Leo XIV.
Ricorre oggi l'80° anniversario del bombardamento atomico della città giapponese di Hiroshima e fra 3 giorni ricorderemo quello di Nagasaki. Desidero assicurare la mia preghiera per tutti coloro che ne hanno subito gli effetti fisici, psicologici.
We're now joined by Ross Feingold. He's a political risk analyst. He joins us live from Taipei in Taiwan. Ross, thank you very much for joining us. First of all, 80 years on from that day in Japan, how do the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki continue to shape global attitudes towards nuclear weapons and warfare?
There's certainly a struggle on this issue, and in Japan, Japanese society, there's a great struggle about this. There's been treaties, but the treaties in recent years seem to be failing with regard to restrictions on different types of missiles or nuclear weapons. Most notably, there's the failure of the US and Iran to reach an agreement on Iran's desire to develop nuclear weapons. Obviously, there's North Korea's desire to develop nuclear weapons. So the anniversary will get a lot of international media attention. But what the anniversary does not change is that there are some countries that are eager to develop nuclear weapons. And it also doesn't change, again, I would call it the fraying of previous international agreements to restrict nuclear weapons. So the potential for greater proliferation or for countries that currently have nuclear weapons to add to their arsenals of nuclear weapons, that is a very realistic possibility at the moment.
Ross, you've mentioned it previously, but given the recent geopolitical tensions, I mean, we've got Donald Trump moving submarines towards Russia. We obviously have Iran and Israel and the bombing of nuclear enrichment facilities by the United States. As I said, given the rising geopolitical tensions and modernization of nuclear arsenals, is the threat of nuclear conflict more real today than in previous decades?
That's a fair thing to say. Whether it's the fraying, the collapse of existing agreements, and most specifically between the United States and Russia, or the fact that China, which is not a participant in relevant agreements, is continuing to develop its own nuclear arsenal, or countries that were never parties to international agreements like Iran and North Korea, the threat of nuclear proliferation or nuclear weapons is certainly something that countries should be concerned about. And obviously, non-government organizations are looking at this issue as well. There's a lot of media attention to it as well. But this is a significant threat. Is it a greater threat from traditional weapons? Well, look, the reality is there's the war in Ukraine, which has not involved nuclear weapons. There's wars in other parts of the world like Africa or Myanmar. There's the threat of Chinese invasion on Taiwan, where I'm speaking from. So the threat from traditional conventional weapons as well as nuclear weapons, frankly, it's probably greater at the moment than at any time since the end of the Cold War at the end of the late 80s.
Yes, Ross Feingold, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. Always a pleasure to hear your insight. We now move on. US Senator Tom Cotton has questioned